Greetings, YouTube. Today I thought I'd talk about magic items, and in particular, how we can use real-world objects as inspiration for magic items. This does a couple of things. One, if you're using a real-world item, you can hand that item to the player in the game. You can say, this is what you find, and they can play with it, see if they can figure out something out by looking at it, by feeling it, and it gives a sense of tactile connection that not even the best verbal description is ever going to give. You're never going to get the same level of connection to that item if you, other than handing something to someone. So what do we got here? So I'm going to bring out some items that I've just got kicking around the house that I think are inspirational, and I'll tell you about one at the end, which was the idea for this came from, which I don't have because it belongs to my ex. So the first thing I've got is this little brass hammer. I don't know if this camera's capable of picking this up. I don't know. I don't think it can. But there is fruit on here. And I think this may have been originally a candy hammer or possibly part of a gong or something. It does have a really nice weight and heft to it. And the first thing you could do is this could be a miniature hammer. It's a magic item, which is just an item that's been shrunk down, and so it becomes a giant maul, which then can be used either in construction or in combat. That's kind of boring. It can also be designed to open things or break things. So, for example, this item could be a device to store shatter spells or something similar to that. An idea is that by striking this against an object, maybe only particular types of objects, it would then break that object open. And of course, the GM can decide what the limitations on that are. Another item we have here is a pair of goggles, and I'll show you what these goggles look like. There we go. This is what the goggles look like. I use these for a post-apocalyptic warrior cosplay. But the goggles could do a couple of things. For one, they could grant the wearer infrared or night vision, like the dark vision from Pathfinder or D&D. Also, they could be used on the other end of the spectrum for creatures that have really good dark vision, say out to 90 or 120 feet, like say the Drow do, or some other deep subterranean races. And they, sorry, I don't keep the cat off the keyboard. They would wear them to protect their eyes from daylight blindness. Okay, so that could be the other end of the spectrum. Another item we have here is this, which is a stone sphere, and it has a really nice weight to it. I've been known just to toss this thing around because I like the way it feels. And the most obvious thing is it's got two light stripes and 3 dark ones. So this could be a magical orb as a concentration object. So this is a magic thing's possessed, and you have to hold it and you use it to, say, do some oppositional magic, positive energy, negative energy, or something along those lines. If your world's using some kind of good-evil mechanic, you might be able to use something like this. It could also be something that you throw, not necessarily as a weapon, but as a spell carrier, or you chuck it somewhere, it lands, and it does something. Or it could actually be used as a weapon. For example, you throw it, it itself functions as an impact weapon, say doing, I don't know, a 20-foot range increment, and say probably doing like a good die 6 or die 8. This thing's pretty, it's solid marble, so it's not light. And of course, you get your strength bonus for that, and appropriate throwing feats or things like that. And when it strikes your target, it explodes into shards. The person being hit gets no saving throw. Those within a 5-foot range on either side do. But at the end of that round, it reconstitutes itself and returns to the thrower. So you could use it once a round, and it's definitely devastating. So these are some ideas. Throw some other ideas about how you think you would use that particular stone. Then we have this, which is a bone knife. Now this one is made out of a deer leg, but you could have one made out of a human leg too if you really wanted. It'd be a little more macabre. But this one, say, is been hardened, say magically hardened. There's a glass steel spell, and there's a reinforcement spell. I think there's a reinforcement spell that does bone and stone and horn and things like that. Anybody out there knows what it is, tell me. So it functions as a knife, though not a great knife. So, it's going to be probably doing less than standard material hardness, or, like a die 3 or something like that. So it's not a great knife. However, its main power is it severs the connection of an undead creature, an incorporeal undead creature, or an animated corpse, or an outsider from this plane. So if you use this against a ghost, and say you score a critical hit or something, they have to roll a saving throw, or they are shunted out of this realm back into the ghost world, or the realm of the dead, wherever they belong. The same thing against a corporeal undead. You hit them with this, you score a critical, and if they fail a saving throw, their spirit that was used to animate them or power their body is shunted out. So the spirit's not gone, but their body crumbles to the ground, useless and inert. And the same thing with an outsider. You store this, it severs their connection, and they go back to their plane. So yeah, I use it as a tool of magical ritual. Okay, here we go. Here we have a Malachite lion, which is really, really cool, which is why I own the Malachite lion. I think he's just awesome. I don't remember where I got the Malachite island. The Malachite lion may have been a gift. I'm not positive. But the first thing you could be used is a figurine of wondrous power. This could be the default in your setting. Like, it's just a stone figure. It doesn't necessarily have to be a particular type. But since this one is green, and a wonderful green with a wonderful modeling to it, it's just got a really nice modeling to it. Say this thing has something to do with plants. Now, I know there's a template I've seen someplace. I don't know if it was a primary source or a third party, but I've seen a template that turns conventional creatures into plant versions. So you could have a plant lion that has all the characteristics of a plant while still being a lion. This is obviously a mammalian anymore. So this thing could be a figurative of wondrous power, but it turns into a plant version of it, which gives you different options if you are using it as a companion or a steed or a combatant. It's different than having a mammalian version thereof. But that's one thing you can do with that. Again, I'm looking for ideas here as well. So tell me, what do you think we should do with them? And we have this ring of 5 brass keys. Now, the obvious thing is to have it just be something that opens doors, and I think that is the most obvious. But then it's got 5 keys, and it's not just one key. And I have large, really nice single brass keys, and I got these at a flea market for $5, which is probably less than the brass itself is worth. But so this opens doors, but it opens doors more often than like a single use, or it doesn't have a limited supply. It is, say, it'll function 7 days a week, one time 7 days a week. So, and after 7 days, it has to rest, or maybe you use it once, and if you rest it, it resets it. So you have to let it rest between the full expenditure if you want, but you can't use it more than one time a day, which puts limitations, but also gives still lots of options, because this is going to be handy. It could also be something like a charm that a person that is picking locks keeps upon their person. It gives them a bonus. So this gives them a skill bonus to opening locks, and opening locks only, nothing else having to do with being a sneaky type person. And again, any ideas, if anyone else has out there, tell me. Now, for the one item I don't have with me because it belongs to my ex, it is a walking stick, but the knob of the walking stick is a human femur. It is this portion of a human, which is one of the reasons I have this with me. It is this portion of a human leg, and that's the handle. And it was acquired by a friend of mine in a auction lot he got at an event. He knew the person who owned the property. It was like an estate sale, and he bid on a bag which the guy had used in the field, and he wanted it because of the binoculars that he believed the guy carried in that bag. And he was correct. He got the bag. There was a number of items in there, including a human bone. from Africa. The guy was a big game hunter back in like the 30s. So my ex asked if my friend would turn that into a walking stick, and my friend said yes and did. So you've got a walking stick with the human bone. Now, obviously, the actual ball socket style part of the end would be superior. So we'll say that's what the walking stick in question that we're discussing has, and it functions as a walking stick, obviously, but it also functions as a light mace, and you can decide how powerful that particular weapon is. And any person killed by the light mace is raised as an undead to the person holding the walking stick. So if you hand the walking stick to someone else, they can now control the undead, and it could be limited. Say, if it's a +2 weapon, it could be able to animate 2, or if it's a +5 weapon, it could animate 5, or some other limitation based on the power of the person holding the staff, holding the walking stick. If you want to do it fueled by their particular magical knowledge and energy. So it's definitely necromancy, but it isn't necessarily evil, because I have often said, and I probably always will, that intelligent undead have no alignment, and raising an unintelligent undead is not immoral. Unintelligent undeads are just things. They cannot make moral judgments, so they are not evil. And I will always fight that. Anybody wants to, you're not going to win. You're never going to change my mind. If it can't make moral choices, it doesn't have an alignment. The plane of negative energy is not evil. Negative energy itself is not evil. Things raised that don't have intelligence by those things are not evil. Okay. So you've got the boom, boom, boom. You kill someone, it raises them, and now you've got yourself a minion. Now the minion can have a duration, kind of like the way they do it in Skyrim, where you raise something from the dead and it only lasts for a certain amount of time, then it just crumbles into dust. Or it could be a legitimate raised undead, and it lasts as long as its durability lasts. And if the person who's in charge has access to the ability to heal the undead, which is more complicated than healing living creatures, like they don't heal on their own, then that raised creature could last for a very long time. So again, these are some ideas I've got. This is something I came up with. I was thinking about that walking stick recently. I can't remember what prompted it, but something did. I think I was thinking about Skyrim raising undead, and suddenly it occurred to me that walking stick would be a great magic item to do that with, because I was watching someone's playthrough of Skyrim. John from Many a True Nerds, very entertaining lad. So let's talk about real-world objects that can inspire the creation of magic items for games, and the fact that they can be used as props themselves. Though I will admit, using the walking stick made from a human bone could very well freak out your players.